She'll never understand real Navy engineering. Coleman sneers, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Sarah Mitchell doesn't flinch. 34, blonde and dressed like any civilian outsider, but her calloused hands and quiet intensity tell another story. Inside the Norfolk shipyard's elite training room, she stands alone, surrounded by skeptical men, veterans, engineers, and one particularly cruel chief. They expect her to stumble, to prove them right. But Sarah's not here to impress. She's here to break their assumptions, one bolt, one calculation at a time. And in exactly 3 minutes, she'll expose something none of them saw coming. The room, usually filled with the hum of machinery, is now punctuated by the soft, almost imperceptible rustle of uniforms and the occasional scoff. Sarah, undeterred, moves with a silent grace, her gaze sweeping over the intricate network of pipes and wires. She is a figure of focused intensity amidst the casual arrogance of those around her. When she quietly suggests that the problem, which has stumped them for weeks of troubleshooting their electronic systems, lies instead in the fuel injection timing, a ripple of laughter spreads through the room, a wave of derision that threatens to engulf her. Coleman, seizing the opportunity to underscore his perceived superiority, leans forward slightly, his voice dripping with condescension. "Ma'am, with all due respect, maybe you should stick to simpler tasks," he drawls, his hand making a dismissive gesture that encompasses the entire complex diagnostic machinery. The assembled experts, eager to agree with their leader, nod in unison, their faces reflecting a shared sense of amusement and confirmation of her perceived incompetence. Admiral James Harper, a man of quiet authority, observes the scene silently from the back of the room, his expression unreadable. Sarah's jaw tightens, a minuscule movement barely discernible to the casual observer. It is a subtle tremor, a silent testament to the frustration and deep-seated injustice she feels. Her hands, calloused and strong, clasp behind her back, a familiar military stance that, ironically, none of these naval professionals recognize. It is a posture of discipline and readiness, a stark contrast to the dismissive attitudes surrounding her. But they fail to grasp. What remains hidden beneath her unassuming exterior is that this simple woman is about to dismantle every preconceived notion they hold. The emotional current in the room is a potent mix of shock for the audience witnessing this dismissal, a simmering rage at the injustice, and a mounting anticipation for the inevitable revelation of her true capabilities. Have you ever been dismissed for something you knew you were right about? Drop your story below, because what happens next will remind you why you should never give up on your truth. Sarah Mitchell's existence is a quiet defiance, a life deliberately curated away from the world she once inhabited. She resides in a converted lighthouse keeper's cottage, perched on the windswept coast outside Norfolk, Virginia. For 3 years, this secluded dwelling has been her sanctuary, a place where she practices her craft as a freelance mechanical consultant, maintaining a meticulously low profile. Her only constant companion is Anchor, a rescue dog whose silent loyalty mirrors Sarah's own solitary existence. She hasn't uttered a single word to anyone from her former life, not out of a conscious choice for isolation, but because, in a cruel twist of fate, it seems everyone simply forgot she existed. 5 years ago, a different Sarah Mitchell walked the decks of naval vessels. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, as she was known then, was a rising star, the Navy's youngest female mechanical engineer to achieve Master Chief status. Her intellect and dedication were unparalleled. During the rigorous sea trials of the new DDG-51 destroyer, she uncovered critical design flaws. When she reported the defects, her commanding officer, who had financial ties to the contractor, falsely accused her of sabotage. She stood in a stark, sterile courtroom, the accusatory gazes of her peers like physical blows, her meticulously gathered evidence dismissed as fabricated. The shame and betrayal were a brand, searing themselves into her very soul. The subsequent court-martial proceedings were swift, brutal, and utterly devoid of justice. Her meticulously gathered evidence was summarily dismissed, her character systematically assassinated by a system more concerned with protecting its own than uncovering the truth. The real sabotage, a clandestine act by those with vested interests, was only revealed months later, long after Sarah had been dishonorably discharged. The Navy, in its quiet, bureaucratic way, corrected the destroyer's flaws. but never publicly cleared her name. Her former colleagues, the very people she served alongside, moved on, received promotions, and, in a final, heartbreaking act of erasure, forgot her name. She became a whispered cautionary tale in junior officer meetings, a phantom warning, and even those whispers eventually faded into silence. Yet Sarah, a multitude of hidden talents continued to thrive, unacknowledged by the system that cast her out. She possessed an uncanny mechanical intuition, capable of diagnosing complex engine problems by sound alone, a skill honed by years of dedication. Her mind held a photographic memory for technical specifications and intricate schematics, allowing her to recall blueprints with perfect clarity. Beyond her technical prowess, she possessed a natural teaching gift, an innate ability to explain the most complex systems with remarkable simplicity. And, perhaps most significantly, she commanded respect through sheer competence, not authority, embodying a quiet leadership that spoke volumes without needing a title. Today, Sarah sustains herself through a myriad of small repair jobs and consulting work, always using her maiden name to maintain her anonymity. Her lighthouse, a beacon of her quiet defiance, has been transformed into a sophisticated workshop, a clandestine laboratory where she continues to develop innovative solutions to naval engineering problems. Unbeknownst to the Navy, her ingenious designs are unknowingly implemented through third-party contractors, a silent irony that underscores the profound injustice she endured. Her numerous former awards, testaments to her past brilliance, gather dust in a cardboard box, unopened for 2 long years, symbols of a recognition she no longer seeks but deeply deserves. The very air around her cottage seems to hum with a melancholic symphony, an emotional target of sympathy for her plight, intrigue at her hidden past, and a profound respect for her quiet resilience. The fragile peace of Sarah's reclusive life is shattered by an urgent summons, a desperate plea from the very institution that cast her aside. A critical, unforeseen failure has crippled the Navy's newest crown jewel, the USS Enterprise, threatening to derail its crucial deployment. Multiple teams of esteemed experts have been brought in, yet each has failed to pinpoint the elusive problem, their combined knowledge proving inadequate against the ship's complex malfunction. Admiral Harper, a man whose quiet observation had once marked him as different from the others, finds himself recalling Sarah's singular, unwavering confidence. He tracks her down through unofficial channels, a measure of last resort, for 3 other highly paid consultants have already failed, and careers, including his own, are teetering on the precipice of ruin. Sarah initially refuses the call, the wounds of her past too raw, the betrayal too deep. But Admiral Harper, a shrewd negotiator despite his outward calm, reveals the truly devastating stakes. If the massive aircraft carrier fails to deploy on schedule, 3 months of vital strategic operations will be compromised, leading to a catastrophic chain of events that will undoubtedly trigger a congressional investigation, exposing the Navy's systemic failures to public scrutiny. Against her better judgment, a silent battle raging within her, Sarah reluctantly agrees to consult, but only as a civilian contractor, a deliberate assertion of her independence from the institution that wronged her. Their confrontation is a heated exchange, a clash of wills and unresolved history. Admiral Harper, under immense pressure, makes it starkly clear that this is his final gambit, a desperate throw of the dice. I need results, not excuses. Your past complications are irrelevant if you can't deliver. His words are a subtle jab, a dismissive brushing aside of her personal tragedy for the sake of the mission. Sarah's response, however, cuts deep, piercing through his controlled facade. Her voice, though quiet, carries the weight of years of unspoken pain. My past complications? You mean when I was right about the destroyer flaws that killed 2 sailors during the covered-up sea trials? Those complications, Admiral? The question hangs in the air, a stark reminder of the lives lost due to bureaucratic negligence. Harper's jaw tightens, a barely perceptible clenching that betrays his inner turmoil. That situation was complex. Focus on the current problem. He attempts to deflect, to reassert control over the narrative, but Sarah's gaze is unwavering, her voice laced with quiet defiance. Just like everyone focused away from the truth 5 years ago, she replies. her words a hammer blow of truth that resonates with the unspoken history between them. The real stakes of her involvement become agonizingly clear. If Sarah's diagnosis proves incorrect, the USS Enterprise's main engine could suffer catastrophic failure, potentially killing dozens of crew members and destroying a $13 billion warship. The pressure and invisible, crushing weight is now hers to bear, and failure would unequivocally end multiple careers, including Admiral Harper's. The shipyard's elite engineering team, spearheaded by Coleman, views Sarah's arrival not as a solution, but as a profound insult. They have toiled tirelessly on the Enterprise's propulsion issues for 2 agonizing weeks, their pride wounded by the implied inadequacy of their efforts. Coleman, a master of petty sabotage, embarks on a deliberate campaign to undermine her. He assigns her to the most junior technician, a clear snub. He provides her with incomplete schematics, knowing they will hinder her progress. He pointedly excludes her from crucial technical briefings, ensuring she remains out of the loop. And with every opportunity, he makes snide comments about civilian consultants, his voice a low, venomous whisper to his team. Isn't she the one who got court-martialed? Why is she even here? A micro cliffhanger hangs in the air as Sarah, despite the deliberate obstacles, delves into the carrier's vast, echoing engine room. As she moves with practiced ease, her trained eye catches something the others have missed, a pattern in the vibration that shouldn't exist. But just as she attempts to access the detailed specifications that could confirm her suspicion, her security clearance is suddenly, inexplicably, temporarily unavailable. The words, though seemingly innocuous, carry the sting of a painful memory sequence. Sarah remembers standing in this very shipyard 5 years ago, watching in numb disbelief as her security badges were confiscated and her access revoked. The emotional weight of returning to the precise place where her career and her very identity died threatens to overwhelm her. She recognizes some of the same faces, older now, more hardened, but they look right through her, their eyes devoid of recognition, as if she never existed at all. Coleman's team, fueled by his open hostility, grows increasingly resistant to Sarah's presence. Her probing questions, sharp and incisive, expose gaps in their knowledge, revealing their inability to answer. She recognizes more familiar faces, engineers who were present at her court-martial, now pretending not to recognize her. Their collective amnesia, a cruel form of psychological torture. The feeling of being forgotten intensifies, a suffocating blanket of invisibility. When a former colleague, a man she once considered a friend, walks past her in the hallway without so much as an acknowledgement, his gaze fixed straight ahead as if she were a ghost. The atmosphere is thick with anger, palpable tension, and a growing anticipation for the inevitable confrontation. After 2 long and agonizing weeks of failed attempts, a grim silence hangs over Admiral Harper's emergency meeting. The USS Enterprise's main engine, the very heart of the formidable warship, has suffered a catastrophic failure during final testing. The ramifications are immediate and dire. If they cannot fix it within 48 hours, the deployment is irrevocably canceled, and countless careers, including those of the highest-ranking officers, will undoubtedly come to a crushing end. The air in the conference room is heavy with unspoken dread and the scent of impending doom. Coleman, his face etched with exhaustion and frustration, presents his team's findings, their collective failure a bitter pill to swallow. His voice, usually brimming with self-assurance, is now tinged with defeat as he delivers the damning verdict. They need to replace the entire propulsion system, a monumental task that would take a staggering 6 months to complete. A collective gasp, barely audible, ripples through the room, followed by a thick, suffocating silence. It is in this moment of utter despair that Sarah's quiet voice cuts through the oppressive stillness, a fragile thread of hope in a sea of resignation. She calmly asks to see the actual failure data, not the sanitized summary reports, an unspoken challenge to their superficial analysis. Coleman, grudgingly, complies, a smirk playing on his lips, fully expecting her to be overwhelmed by the sheer technical complexity of the raw data. Sarah studies the intricate figures and cryptic readings for exactly 7 minutes, an eternity in the tense, silent room. The assembled experts watch her with skeptical, disbelieving eyes, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled contempt. Then she looks up, her gaze steady and unwavering, and delivers her verdict, her voice clear and precise. The problem isn't the propulsion system. It's the harmonic resonance in the fuel injection manifold. The timing is off by 0.003 seconds, barely detectable, but enough to create a cascade failure under full load. Her words are met with stunned silence, then an eruption of disbelief. Coleman, his face a mask of disbelief and fury, explodes. "That's impossible! We've run those diagnostics 50 times!" His voice echoes through the room, a desperate attempt to cling to his crumbling authority. Sarah, unflustered by his outburst, responds with a calm that belies the enormity of the situation. "You've run the standard diagnostics, but this system has been modified from the original specs. The modification created an interaction you weren't looking for." Her explanation is simple, logical, and devastatingly accurate. The moment of truth arrives, hanging heavy in the air. Admiral Harper, his face etched with a mixture of fear and a flicker of desperate hope, asks the critical question, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can you fix it?" Sarah's response is equally soft, yet imbued with an unshakable resolve. "I can fix it. But if I'm wrong, the engine will detonate during testing. The explosion will kill everyone in the engine room and potentially sink the ship." A chilling micro-cliffhanger settles over the room as Sarah prepares to enter the engine room, a solitary figure facing an impossible task. Coleman, unable to let go of his prejudice, makes a final, desperate attempt to undermine her, his voice trembling with fear and malice. "If she's wrong, the damage could be irreversible. We'll lose the entire ship and everyone aboard." The air is thick with suspense, a palpable anticipation for what is to come, and a quiet determination emanating from Sarah. Sarah works through the night, a silent, unwavering force against the monumental challenge before her. Her movements are precise, economical, almost ritualistic as she makes microscopic adjustments to the fuel injection system. Each turn of the wrench, each calibration of a delicate component, is executed with the practiced ease of a master. From the observation deck above, Admiral Harper watches her, his gaze intense, noting her unconscious military bearing. At 0600, as the first rays of dawn pierce through the shipyard's industrial haze, Sarah emerges from the engine room, her face smudged with grease, but her eyes alight with a quiet triumph. "It's ready for testing," she announces simply, her voice clear and steady. The engine room fills with skeptical observers, their faces a mixture of doubt and reluctant curiosity. Sarah herself initiates the startup sequence, a deliberate act of confidence. The massive engines roar to life, but this time the sound is different, cleaner, more powerful. As the test progresses flawlessly, the engine purring with an unprecedented efficiency, Admiral Harper quietly instructs Coleman to run Sarah's personnel file. Coleman's face drains of color as he reads, the weight of a devastating truth settling upon him. "Admiral, this is Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell. She was court-martialed 5 years ago for—" Harper interrupts him, his voice firm and unwavering. "I know exactly who she is. I was the one who requested her court-martial be reviewed. The real saboteur was caught 18 months later." A shocking twist unfolds as Sarah, her heightened senses attuned to the subtle shifts in conversation, overhears Harper's words. For the first time in years, she learns that her name was quietly cleared, a truth withheld from her by the bureaucratic machinery of the Navy. They had simply moved on, leaving her to painstakingly rebuild her shattered life in exile, a ghost in her own narrative. The heated confrontation is a raw emotional battle, a reckoning that has been years in the making. Sarah confronts Admiral Harper directly, her voice controlled but laced with an icy fury. "You knew I was cleared 18 months ago, and you never told me? I've been living like a ghost for 3 years." Harper's carefully constructed defense crumbles under the weight of her accusations. There were procedural complications, official channels, bureaucratic delays. He stammers, his excuses hollow and inadequate. "Bureaucratic delays?" Sarah's voice remains controlled, but it cuts like steel, each word a precise incision into his flimsy justifications. "I lost everything, my career, my reputation, my life, and you just forgot to mention I was innocent?" Harper tries desperately to justify their neglect. "We were going to reach out, but you disappeared. We couldn't locate you. Sarah's response is a quiet, devastating indictment. I was 20 miles away, Admiral. 20 miles away, rebuilding my life from nothing while you all moved on. Word of Sarah's vindication spreads like wildfire through the shipyard, igniting a profound cultural shift. The woman they had mocked, the simple woman they had dismissed, was the same brilliant engineer whose innovations they had unknowingly relied upon for years through contractor modifications. The atmosphere shifts dramatically from hostility to a stunned respect, and a deep, pervasive shame washes over those who had judged her so harshly. In the remaining time she spends at the shipyard, Sarah dedicates herself to a silent teaching moment, quietly sharing her profound knowledge with younger engineers, particularly the women who frequently face similar dismissal and prejudice within the male-dominated field. Her teaching style is patient, thorough, and utterly transformative, leaving an indelible mark on those she mentors. The prevailing emotions are a powerful catharsis, a newfound respect for her unyielding spirit, and a deep sense of vindication for all she endured. Admiral Harper, seeking to mend the profound injustice, offers Sarah a full reinstatement, complete with a retroactive promotion to commander. The Navy, now humbled by her undeniable brilliance, desperately wants to make amends, publicly clear her name, and assign her to head the new Advanced Propulsion Division, a position of immense authority and influence. It is a golden opportunity, a chance to reclaim the career and recognition she so richly deserved. But Sarah, with a quiet grace that speaks volumes, declines the offer. "I appreciate the offer, Admiral," she says, her gaze steady, "but I've found my mission. There are young engineers out there who need someone to believe in them when the system doesn't." Her refusal is not born of bitterness, but of a deeper understanding of her true calling. The final confrontation between them, though brief, carries the weight of years of unspoken truths. "You had 3 years to remember I existed, Admiral. I won't forget that lesson when these young women need someone to fight for them." As Sarah quietly packs her tools, preparing to leave the shipyard that had once been both her dream and her nightmare, Admiral Harper approaches, holding a small wooden box. Inside, resting on a bed of velvet, is her original Navy Cross, the very one she earned for her innovations before the devastating court-martial. It was never officially revoked, simply quietly set aside, a forgotten testament to her brilliance. "This always belonged to you," he says, his voice tinged with a quiet reverence. Sarah accepts it without words, the weight of the medal in her hand a tangible symbol of her enduring legacy. She then quietly pins it to her civilian jacket, a defiant statement of her true identity, unburdened by rank or title. 6 months later, Sarah has established a nonprofit training program for underrepresented engineers, a beacon of hope and opportunity. Her lighthouse workshop, once a solitary refuge, has been transformed into an unofficial academy where young women and minorities, eager and bright, gather to learn advanced mechanical skills under her tutelage. One afternoon, a young female engineer, barely out of college, approaches Sarah, her brow furrowed in frustration. "Miss Mitchell," she begins, "I'm trying to understand this engine's fluid dynamics, but the textbooks just don't click for me." Sarah smiles gently, her weathered hands picking up a discarded hose. "Textbooks are a start, dear, but feel the flow, listen to the pressure. Your hands know more than your eyes ever will about these machines." The young woman's eyes widen in understanding, a spark of recognition passing between generations of engineering. The final scene unfolds with Sarah standing in her lighthouse workshop, surrounded by a new generation of aspiring engineers. Through the window, she sees a Navy destroyer passing in the distance, one of the magnificent ships she helped design, its powerful engines humming with the very precision she imparted. On the destroyer's bridge, a young female officer, her posture crisp and professional, renders a silent salute in the direction of the distant lighthouse. She doesn't know who lives there, doesn't know the story of Sarah Mitchell, but she instinctively recognizes that the intricate modifications to her ship's systems bear the unmistakable hallmark of a master engineer. Sarah notices the salute, a silent acknowledgement across the vast expanse of water, and after a moment's hesitation, returns it, a wordless honor exchanged between 2 generations. The camera pulls back slowly to show Sarah in her lighthouse, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, surrounded by her eager students, with the vast, boundless ocean stretching beyond them. She has found her true calling, not in seeking recognition for herself, but in ensuring that the next generation will never have to face the betrayal and injustice she endured. The final shot lingers on her weathered hands, strong and capable, as she demonstrates a complex mechanical principle to an eager young woman, passing on not just invaluable knowledge, but the profound courage to always stand up for the truth, no matter the cost.
Hi, Henry đây. Các bạn vừa xem xong tập phim của series A Simple Woman. Mất 2 tuần để mình viết kịch bản này đấy. Bạn có nhận ra chi tiết nào thú vị ở đây không? Like nếu bạn để ý và subscribe để xem những tập tiếp theo. Thank you so much.